Let's get started. Introductions, I think we have everyone. All right, thanks for coming. And any changes to the agenda?
No.
Okey-doke. Approval of the minutes from the last meeting, that was November 5th. Any comments or changes on that? Nope.
I have no changes.
Okay. I would entertain a motion to approve them.
I motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
Jane, I hope you're going to second. Just nod your head if you want a second. All right, I'm going to go outside my role as chair and second that. All in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting?
Aye.
Jane, is that a yes?
I don't think she can hear
You
us.
can't hear me.
She's muted, if that's...
Are you muted?
Yeah, Jane's muted.
Okay, what did you say?
There you go.
Are you in favor of approving the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Okay. Those are approved. Let's do reports quickly. Mail and email. We did not have any snail mail in the office. Did you happen to check the email, Jane? I have not seen anything lately.
Yeah, no.
Okay. Brian Callie of the Energy Board is going to be coming along probably in January, February. He had an update. Kathy Rondo sent me something that was a Mount Escutney Regional Commission newsletter a while back, but we actually have Jason with us tonight, so if there's anything pressing for Mount Escutney, maybe you can tell us.
The main thing is, I think, our future land use map, and just wanted to make sure we talk through any concerns that you have.
Okay, hold your
let's
thoughts
stick
on
with
that. Let's not have a spoiler on that one.
Right.
Zoning administrator, we don't have Bob with us tonight. Anything from the assistant ZA? Nothing. Okay. ZBA, Jane, that's you. Anything?
There could be something, but I'd like to put it on hold until next meeting when I'm there.
Okie doke. Great. So that brings us to the next item. So the big topic of conversation tonight, I feel like this poll is always right in the middle, is talking about the regional land use mapping that Mount Escutney Regional Commission is doing in conjunction with the changes required by the legislature from Act 181, which I am fast educating myself on. So we're going to go over that. We're going to talk a little bit more if anybody wants to continue soliciting feedback on Class 4 roads and the town highway ordinance. That seems to have died down a little bit, but it's not dead. We're still soliciting information and are going to be talking about that in the new year and deciding whether or not we should be making any changes or taking any of that feedback and incorporating it or making a recommendation to the select board. It eventually is their decision. We have to talk a little bit about the budget tonight. That shouldn't be long. We have to submit our annual report. That's mostly done, but we should touch on that tonight. We need to plan for the next meeting. I have a conflict on January 7th, so something to keep in mind. And then public comments. So that's the scope of our meeting tonight. Should we move into the planning? Okay.
Yeah.
If you'd like. Yep.
Where we left off last time was reminding me to bring the big map, which I did, but now we have a new map, which you guys haven't seen. Is there any way to shoot them a copy digitally?
There certainly is. I can either try and join the Zoom and put it in the chat, or if you have access to the emails, I can send it to them right now. Do you happen to...
I don't know, would Zoom be easier, or?
I just can't find the link to the Zoom meeting, otherwise...
I'm happy to give it to you if you'd like.
Sure.
I want to say it on the Shanann's gonna give you the emails.
Oh, wow, we're living the secret here. All right, we got it.
Who's on the camera tonight? Can they pan the room just so we can put a face to the voices?
Yeah, it's Will. We have Ray, we have Jason, and Jason's colleague from Mount Escutney, whose name I've already forgotten,
Kelly, hi.
Kelly, and
Adam.
Adam.
Yep.
That's where I get to say hi, I'm Eve.
Hello, Eve.
That's how we do that.
So while Kellen is doing the email thing, the latest version of the map that hopefully you'll see soon has changed a little bit. We dove in a little more detail, and some of the weird rural general that we were talking about, the yellow, has been somewhat fixed. So that's probably the thing that's actually changed the most. So just so you know, we still want to make sure we talk through the Belchville Village Center, whether there should be something different done for Hammondsville, and any other questions that you may have. So while we're waiting for the map, I just wanted to give you a quick overview of what's changed.
So anyone in the room is welcome to join me and look at the maps if you want. I'm gonna stand for this meeting. This is the one we thought we were looking at, and this is the one as it's been redone tonight.
It may make sense to gather around, for those of us who are here anyway. So just real quick, why are we here? Why are we doing this? We had updated our regional plan last in 2022.
Can everybody hear?
Yes.
Yes.
And about last year, the legislature passed Act 181, and they told us and all of our colleagues that we need to update our regional plan again. So here we are. We have to use the new categories that are spelled out in state law. They're very similar to what we used to have, but the names have changed, and how we are supposed to go about mapping them has changed a little bit. Probably the biggest difference is how we had mapped our old conservation with what we're now calling rural conservation, and what we used to be calling rural lands, which we're now calling rural agriculture and forestry. So on these maps, the green is the rural conservation, and this blue is the rural agriculture and forestry. Kellen can talk a little bit more about some of the details if there's questions, but actually a lot of the questions are on those two categories. Do you want to talk a little bit about the rural categories and how they differ from the mapping point of view?
Yeah, absolutely. So first, I did send a PDF copy of the most updated map to folks on Zoom. So you should be able to access that, I believe. Let me know if you don't have it in your inbox.
Jamie, that should be for you and Stacy.
Did Lisa get it too?
I didn't pull that one up in that particular, but I have it. It should come to me as well, so I can forward it.
Okay.
Yeah, so the three main categories that make up most of Reading are rural general, rural agriculture and forestry, and rural conservation. The way that the state legislature has requested or required that we map this is that large parcels, more or less, find their way into rural agriculture and forestry. Those ones which are conserved via conservation easement or state lands, or through large and significant wetlands, those are being mapped as rural conservation. And kind of everything else that falls into a rural area falls under rural general. Then after that first pass, the methodology requests that we then go back and put like with like. So make sure there's not any weird islands of rural general places or rural conservation, these sorts of things, and just make sure that the map, in this very sort of subjective sense, makes sense.
So this is the older version. Some of these weird little islands, these yellow islands, have gone away on the newer version.
Yeah.
So we were trying to correct for some of that stuff we talked about the last time.
So in the, not the 2022, but the last map that we looked at the last meeting is what we're now thinking of as the old map. and I was pretty worked up about that one because it had a lot of little islands of general rural kind of tucked into this other rural ag and conservation land in a way that didn't seem supported. And I was all loaded and ready to go tonight, but they've all disappeared. So they read my mind.
I also want to say, while I'm talking about the three different categories here, in terms of regulation, as handed down by Act 181, there is no regulatory difference between any of these categories. They neither exempt nor unexempt any areas from Act 250, and they do not necessarily imply a more restrictive Act 250 regulation either.
So can we just talk about that for a second?
Yeah, for sure.
So when I do an AI search on this and the pros and cons and the differences, one of the cons of the new system, and it's AI, so it's about 90% right and about 10% wrong in my estimation. Pros are clearer framework, streamlined review, stronger protection for rural landscape. Cons are reduced local flexibility, that gets my attention, in defining categories. Potential tension if regional maps override local priorities, requires municipalities to adjust zoning and planning to align with tiers. So maybe there's an implication for our next iteration of the town plan. Development outside tier 1 areas faces more hurdles.
So I would say that
So I read that and I'm like, what hurdles? What are they?
I would say that is an incorrect assessment on AI's part. There is no additional hurdles that are being placed on categories in the Tier 2 status as conferred by Act 181. The idea is Tier 2 will remain most of the state, and Tier 2 is status quo. No change to Act 250, no change to any regulations as defined by the state.
So tier 2 of the categories on the maps are which ones?
Every category for
Everything.
Everything.
for Reading.
Because Reading does not have water and sewer, you really are not eligible for either of the tier 1A or the 1B.
So can we change the map to say what the tiers are? Are these all going to be tier 2s? Are there any
Yes.
tier 3s?
There's one except, so again, because you don't have water and sewer, you really can't have tier 1. So it's a little bit of a bummer, but, so tier 1 is where there's exemptions from Act 250 for housing. That's not going to apply here just because of that situation.
Right. If we get water and sewer,
If you get water.
are we automatically tier 1 or is that a mapping change?
Let's say Felchville gets a water system, and I don't know if it is, but let's say that the on-site soils are adequate for levels of density that would work. Then yeah, that could become a tier 1B. And
Does it happen automatically or does it have to be
No, it would-
designated by, is it by mark?
Either we ask the town and the town says, yes, we want 1B, we include that with our plan. Or if we get the plan adopted and you want to do 1B later, because that's when the water system comes in, that can be done too. So that's basically the town working with us, and we just, basically you apply to the land use review board.
So it's an application process. It doesn't just happen. It's not like you have water and sewer, you're not automatically.
Maybe we have to do an amendment, I don't know, but it's very doable, and this is something we can change down the road too. But you can't have tier 1 at this point, unfortunately, but you could in the future. Everything's tier 2 now, but the state land use. Is there a question? I'm sorry.
Sorry, Jason, thank you. Just quick question with this tier 1 designation. Would you have to have water and sewer or water or sewer to get the ability to have some sort of forgiveness for housing?
You need water and sewer or water and adequate soils. So there's a couple of assumptions there, but if you can meet that in the future, then yeah, things could be amended so you have tier 1B.
And that is 1B.
1A is a lot harder, so I don't know that that's ever really, that's for really like Burlington and Brattleboro and much bigger places, have a lot more staff capacity, other things like that. But I think 1B is possible if we can solve the water sewer thing.
And that affords the exemptions to Act 250.
Correct.
If we get that designation.
That's right.
Okay.
That's right.
For people online, it's only 4 of you, Lisa, Stacy, Jane, and Richard. If you have some, I'm just gonna keep asking questions, and if you have anything, just blurt on out, okay? Let's keep it informal.
And
So
then,
I have a quick question before we move forward. I was under the assumption in our previous conversations that we were going to be a tier 3 Reading. That's not the
no.
case any longer. Okay.
well, yes and no. So right now, there's no tier 3. There's draft rules for what tier 3 might be.
You mean there isn't in Reading, or it doesn't
It
exist?
does not exist yet.
Okay.
So the legislature in this act said, State Land Use Review Board, you create rules for tier 3. Tier 3 is going to be more restrictive for Act 250, right? We don't know where that's going to be yet. We have an idea.
It's probably gonna be my house.
Probably, right? There is a draft set of ideas that they have. I don't particularly like them, but they're out there. That's not something that we determine, and ultimately we put it on our map, but this is something that the state's creating.
So all of this is tier 2.
All of it is tier 2, status quo from an Act 250 point of view.
Can you note that on the map? Because this is one of the things I was looking for. I was like, there are all these things, which tiers are they falling into? Do we have any tier 1? Do we have any tier 2? I actually didn't know that about tier 3, so that's helpful to know.
And I do think the tier 3 is something that folks should definitely pay attention to. That's going to have some implications, but that's separate from this process.
And can you say more about that? What are the implications going to be, and what are they likely to be? You say you don't like the rules. What is it going to be? And who should people reach out to?
So if you were to, I can follow up with links if folks want, but if you searched the Vermont Land Use Review Board, you could go to their web page, and somewhere in there, there's something about tier 3. Again, I can provide some links if you'd like. They have some draft tier 3 rules on there.
We would love it if you
And
could
they have
send
a
that to
map.
us.
So the map is, at this point, some wetlands, some very high elevation streams, mostly around Scottney, and some wildlife habitat connectors that they've estimated on a map. The land area in general is pretty small. I don't remember exactly what it is for Reading, but there are places, but it's not a huge expansive area. What they're saying is in those areas, there's going to be expanded Act 250 reviews needed. So basically you build a house, got to go through Act 250 if you're in one of those zones. I don't particularly like that. My comment to them was maybe you exempt the house, but they're exempting subdivision. I said maybe you should make the subdivision go through the process, but not the house. Let's make it a little easier for people. But anyway.
Aren't we supposed to be encouraging housing?
These rules, right. So these rules are in flux and they likely will change, but you can look at them on the State Land Use Review Board's website.
And the Land Use Review Board is a state agency headed by someone appointed by the governor?
There's a board of 5 people. They're new. They basically replaced the old state downtown board. They are tasked with this and other things. They're going to be the ones who approve our regional plan if we meet the test.
So given that our town center is so tiny, especially on the new map, we have much less yellow, the rural general. It's all blue, which is rural ag and forest, or green, which is rural conservation. I almost feel like we're like Brigadoon, where we're gonna be just stuck in time and we can't do anything. Is that not true?
Was there a question?
I'm agreeing. No, I'm agreeing with the.
So this is my concern. So we are now all blue and green.
So I think, this map has a couple of implications. In Act 250, they're going to look at this map, and they're going to look at our plan, and they're going to look at your town plan. And so if these are projects that are small enough that they don't go through Act 250, this really doesn't apply. Who cares?
And what is the smallness test? How much is too small?
So Reading's a 1 acre town, so it's, development on an acre or more. And it's, what is it, 6 lot subdivisions or more, that type of thing. So if it's smaller than that, it doesn't pertain. They wouldn't look at this. In those cases, they're gonna look at this and they're gonna say, you're rural agriculture and forestry, and I don't have it in front of me, but we're calling for very low density. We don't define that anymore. So they're probably gonna look to your town plan or zoning to clarify what that means, is what that would do. And then it further goes on to say, well, these are mapped because of agricultural soils or forestry blocks of 10, what is it, 10 acres?
It's 10 acres or more, yeah.
And then they're gonna say, okay, you can do your development, but we wanna minimize impacts. That's, I think, more or less how that would play out.
So what role will the town plan play? They're gonna look at the town plan. What in the town plan would make them be more or less likely to support any kind of development versus not, saying you're stuck, sorry?
In an ideal world, the town plan and the regional plan are, singing in tune. But if they're not, if there's a conflict, and it's a smaller project, they probably are not going to be looking at a plan. If it's a substantial, regional substantial project, it's bigger stuff. They're going to look at our plan, and if there's a conflict, they're going to look at ours. But
So your plan has a lot of power.
It has power, but I also think in Reading, it's not happened in 25 years. I don't think it's likely,
We're trying.
but it could happen.
We're
It
trying.
could happen. And again, so that's why we want to make sure we talk through this with you all and understand whatever concerns you might have with it.
Okay.
Jason, I have a question.
Yes.
Reading through that document you sent us,
Yep.
you mentioned Felchville and South Reading, but you didn't mention Hammondsville. So I was just curious. Because Hammondville is purple on the map, as well as Felchville and South Reading.
At the moment, yeah. So that, and that was one of our questions. Right now, Felchville, there's a little mapping error that we got to fix here. But Felchville we have is the currently designated village center. South Reading and Hammondsville we're showing as little purple dots as hamlets, we're calling them. One of the questions was, should we think about other new village centers here in town? And that the last time we talked about South Reading, there's probably not. There's not a lot of non-residential uses going on up there. Maybe that doesn't really, so maybe not. And so we didn't look at that in any real detail since then. There was some interest in Hammondsville. The primary benefit of village center designation is access to tax credits. So
For businesses, right?
so if you own a building in the purple area here in Felchville, and you want to do some kind of an apartment or a business, you could have access to these tax credits. It could give you some money to help pay for code improvements or facade improvements or things like that. That's really why you do that.
For existing buildings, right, not for new buildings?
There's federal tax credits. You have to be sort of an eligible historic structure. For the state tax credits, you got to be like 30 years or older type of a building, and it's got to be a non-residential use. So anyway, there's limited implications there in South Reading because there's really not much of that up there. Hammondsville, probably only the cafe would maybe potentially be eligible for that. I'm not sure if it's 30 years old or not, that building.
It's more than
It is.
It really is.
It's like 100
Maybe,
years old.
I think that would be the one building probably there that could benefit from that. But I think the other issue is the state definition of a village center is a little problematic, I think, for Hammondsville. So, but we can talk about those. We can talk about pros and cons of that. The reason we have them as hamlets is because there is a cluster of buildings and we want that to stay that way, and allow for good reuse of those buildings and that sort of thing. So, but whether or not you want a village center designation is a question. I think it's an uphill battle if you want it, but we want to go there. So,
That's the
What do you
select
think?
board's determination on whether or not we want it, right? That's not a planning commission.
you know, I don't, you know, I'm gonna take, it'd be nice to know what both boards think, to be totally honest with you.
Are there any downsides at all to being a village center?
I don't think there's downsides at all. I think it's whether or not the land use review board is gonna agree with including, some of these newer areas as, you know, you drive through Hammondsville, it doesn't really seem like a village, right? There's no church, there's no school, there's no, you know, that's our issue, convincing them that it's a village center, because there's basically a cluster of a couple of houses and one business,
Well, there are two businesses.
right?
Yeah.
But the forestry thing doesn't really.
And there
it's
used
not
to
a
be,
village center
there
kind
used
of
to be the business across the street, now it's a short-term rental.
So I think it's a stretch, but we can pursue it more if there's interest.
Okay,
So are you asking us to collaborate and offer our suggestion on whether or not we would like it to be a village center? And then who determines, like, if the select board and the planning commission think it'd be a good idea for Hammondsville to be a village center, then you would take our recommendation and designate it a village center, and then the state signs off on it? What's that process look like?
You know, we're starting to run out of time. If there's interest here tonight, I'm thinking that we would talk to some of the folks in the state who oversee that program and just get their reaction. And if they're like, oh my God, no way,
I think you should
then
absolutely
we'll come
inquire.
back and tell you
Would
that's
you
what they
please
said.
inquire? I mean, if you're telling us that there's no downside and there's potential economic development upside,
It's
then would
limited,
you
but
please
yes.
inquire?
We can inquire. Sure. We can inquire.
Does
Yep.
anyone else agree with
I
that?
agree.
We can inquire. And if we set up a meeting, it could be on Zoom or whatever, does one of you want to join us? with
Happy to
that?
join.
Okay.
Oops.
I'll let you all know when it happens, and
Okay.
whoever's available can join.
And
Also, Jason, can I just ask one other question then, circling back to South Reading?
Yep.
Would the food pantry be included as something that is a business that might be eligible for tax credits?
that's a great question.
I do believe a nonprofit could potentially be eligible, so, I mean, you know,
Only because you mentioned, you know, a church,
Right.
you know, business, whatever. I mean, that is more so an area where, you know, it is a little more congregated there.
Yep.
And our food pantry would probably be an excellent beneficiary of tax credits if possible.
In a historic building too.
And
For
historical,
radius.
exactly.
yeah, I mean, in my mind, South Reading makes a little more sense as a village center, quote unquote, than Hammondsville. So we could, when we talk to the state, we can talk about both areas.
Hammondsville's on sort of a bigger thoroughfare. You know, people going down to Springfield, going over to Route 44, Brownsville. I think they probably get a little more traffic than Tyson Road, but
They
this is
do.
certainly a bigger community.
That's what it's more of a village.
Can you
right?
ask
drive
about
through,
both?
it's more of
See what
Yes,
the
we can-
powers that be say.
We can talk about both.
That would be
We can
great.
talk about both, yep. So just as an example,
Thank you, Jason.
we're thinking of a new village center in North Springfield. They don't have that yet. And so this would be sort of akin to that, if it makes sense. So we can ask.
I mean, I think it's fair to say that Reading is kind of scratching its head to figure out where we can encourage economic development and any viable going concerns.
Yep.
So if there are things that would help that would not hurt the community,
You know, I
We
mean,
should ask.
part of the thinking with this, for good or for bad, is, you know, these blue areas is, you know, kind of where we want some working landscape activities. So this is where we want the forester to do some work, and this is where we want, you know, whatever, farming and that kind of a thing. So, you know, that's part of the economic development scenario too.
So I have a question about the blue area, since you brought it up.
Yep.
Blue area is, rural agriculture, no.
Yeah, rural
agricultural?
agriculture and
Rural
forestry.
agriforestry.
Yep.
Did you write these descriptions or did the state write these descriptions? So most of Reading, if you're looking at the map, is blue, except for there's a big chunk of green that I think is mostly state forest land.
Yes.
Yep. Mostly.
And the class 4 brown schoolhouse.
Yep. Yeah, most of Reading is either green or blue. Yes.
Can I see that definition? Actually, I'm not sure what you're talking about.
I think we wrote that,
Yes.
and that's more or less what it says in the 22.
So the blue
Regional
areas
plan.
include blocks of forest or farmland that sustain resource industries, provide critical wildlife habitat and movement, outdoor recreation. These are all private properties, so I don't know how outdoor recreation fits into that. Flood storage, aquifer recharge, scenic beauty, and contribute to economic well-being and quality of life. What does that mean? So when you take all these people's properties, what does it mean that people's private properties are contributing to economic well-being and quality of life?
So, that is intended as a summary, and to understand the summary, you should read the full description. And I haven't done that in a little bit, but I think generally the idea is that, these are mapped based on the existence of certain sized farms, farm soil, forestry, tree cover, that sort of a thing, for those purposes. So, generally speaking, this is, we like to see farming, we'd like to see forestry going on there, but housing is also okay. Other activities, other rural enterprises could happen there too.
I'm just questioning kind of the use of that description. It sounds
Okay.
really great. Economic
hear that.
well-being
Maybe the
and quality
description
of
isn't
life.
good.
Like
You can-
quality of life, like my quality of life, Ray's quality of life. Whose economic well-being? Like, is it
Okay.
just for the state of Vermont to enjoy our properties, or is it the town
I
of
see what you're
Reading?
saying. Yeah.
You know what I
maybe
mean?
We can revisit that.
But this is community development, not individual landowner development map. This key is the word community in this, so it's all them taken together and their added value.
Is it community
And
development?
it's also future land use, I believe, is the full,
It is,
right? So
yeah.
future land use categories, not current land use. It's a general plan so that when something comes up for opportunity, you have a general plan. Like, it's like you own a business and you have some idea what your staffing plan needs to be. It isn't what it currently is, but if an opportunity comes along, you can access your staffing plan to move to that new goal. This is the goal of the general landscape. It's less about the individual property owner. That's how my interpretation of it.
But that's exactly my concern. So these are the future goals for our community, if you
Correct.
will. Although I don't know that it's really community goals, but it's the regional commission's sort of view of Reading. And it feels like it is very restrictive.
If I can speak in here a little bit, I think we're going into the weeds of the individual categories, which again don't have a regulatory implication. But I think in broad strokes, Act 181 encourages further development in places that are already dense, that have infrastructure to support further dense development. And it does not encourage development in areas that don't have that density, that ability to support density in the same way. A reason that this looks like a big broad brush in Reading is because there aren't areas in Reading that have the infrastructure to support dense development. So Act 181 does not encourage people to develop.
We don't have any infrastructure.
Correct, yes.
So,
So it's saying Act 181 should not incentivize people to develop further in Reading. That's what Act 181 is saying. It's not de-incentivizing people, but it's saying that's not where our incentives are lying.
So, Act 180,
It seems like a start to a platform that could add a lot of regulation to the community and individual property owners.
well,
I know
I
you're.
don't think so, but I understand the concern.
Rural conservation.
When we look at the town plan, I don't know that it's that much different. There are some differences. Looking at your rural residential, kind of similar to like our yellow, there's certainly differences. But Reading, what is Reading? Reading's pretty rural. There's no infrastructure. So generally speaking, you want the development primarily to be in and along the three villages or hamlets, whatever you want to call them, and along those major thoroughfares.
So we've been told, like, in Felchville, you really can't develop because
Well, there's
no
some
room for septic.
There are issues, without a water or wastewater solution, yeah, it's hard. But it's hard to develop anywhere in Reading without a water or wastewater solution. And you can build a house here and a house there, but other than that, it's really, really hard to develop in Reading.
So I completely understand that this is a plan for the region. It's not that I misunderstand that. But the implications for the individual, I think, are important to consider. And I guess I need to read more about it. My impression is if it doesn't change if it doesn't change the format at all, why are they doing it? I mean, I'm hearing you say that it's absolutely the same. There's no disincentive or nothing that's more difficult, but I guess I need to read more about that.
So the one substantial change from our old plan to this new draft plan is this more of a hyper focus on where is their water and wastewater. Much of the rest of in terms of this future land use map, categories names have changed, how we've mapped them has changed, but a lot of the policy language is exactly the same. So if you've been in rural parts of Reading, and if our plan hasn't squashed your development plans in the last 10 years, it's not going to squash them in the next 10 years either. You know what I mean? It really, that's effectively not changing much. I guess that's what I'm trying to...
Unless you end up to tier 3.
Tier 3, yes, that's going to change some things a little bit, but yeah. Without that, yes, it shouldn't change a lot.
I think we would all love links to learning more about that.
Yep.
Can we talk a little bit about the specific yellow areas and how they used to be that and then all of a sudden are not that?
Sure.
Yeah.
And then in the places where it is yellow, but right next door it's not yellow, a little bit of the background on that.
Would you mind taking that?
Yeah, absolutely. So the first pass for mapping things as blue as agriculture and forestry has mostly to do with land cover and parcel size. So that's making sure that areas of continuous forest or agriculture that are on large parcels, which they're defining as something like 10 or 20 acres, get mapped as that rural agriculture and forestry. And so that's, parcels like this and this and that. Likely your parcel as well. Those are getting mapped first pass and on this old map as agriculture and forestry. And then something that we were asked to do is to go back and clean it up a little bit to make sure that you don't have these isolated spots of yellow like here, and to make sure that things fit with the character of the surrounding area. So, some of these lots here, where they used to be mapped as yellow, are now being mapped as blue because they're pretty much entirely surrounded by blue. So the general character of the land surrounding it is rural agriculture and forestry, so that area should be mapped that way as well. The places that remain rural general on this yellow are areas where there are clusters of smaller lots that are clearly being used for residential, not dense, but more dense than agricultural and forestry, residential areas and small lots. So South Reading, Hammondsville, this along 106, these are areas where that is consistent with the use, and that could be cleaned up and tweaked a little bit, but that's what that is. Another thing that is being asked of us is to try and generally map a single parcel as the same use where possible. So you do end up with some things like right here where this and this are mapped as blue and this is yellow because these are the same parcel, that sort of thing. That's how we got to there.
What do you mean they're the same parcel, same ownership?
The same ownership, yeah. And they're taxed as a single parcel. I believe that is the case here.
So what is the dark green?
Rural conservation.
Yeah, what exactly does that mean?
So from the mapping point of view, could you?
Sure, from the mapping
Is that
point
your
of
house?
view.
Yeah, well, that's Adam's house right there, and this is, I don't know, that's probably,
Well, this has been like subdivided on this.
yeah, this was my, this is my property right here, that used to be yellow, for whatever reason.
Yep.
Now you're rural ag.
So the,
But I don't understand the dark green, because these are all homes in here, and this is being developed as a sugaring property all up in here.
So conservation here is a relatively loose definition and it's relatively similar to agriculture and forestry. I think the areas that are being required to be mapped as conservation are areas that are conserved. So that's all these areas that are crosshatched here. So that's state land easements, that sort of thing. It's also areas that have significant wetlands on them. This parcel in particular is neither of those. I think that could be mapped as agriculture and forestry if we prefer that. That's kind of subjective. Another thing that we're being asked to do is to create corridors or connective areas of conservation to allow wildlife to pass from one area to the other. But that's relatively subjective and again, doesn't have a regulatory implication to it.
So Ray, this is a document that Jason sent us this week, and it's the Mount Scott Regional Commission Regional Plan. And it's got a lot of, what do you call it, black lining, so I guess it's not done. But it lists the things. So blue is what I read. Green says these are areas of significant natural resources. It's a priority to protect ecosystem functions. Development is allowed, but must minimize impacts and maintain functionality of identified natural resources.
And is that the document that Aaron had written up previously? Yeah.
So I would say, I mean, obviously where it's required, I know this is a piece of conservation land.
Yep.
This is conservation land.
Yeah.
That totally
This is
makes
not.
sense. This is not
yeah.
conservation land. This is someone's property, and to the extent that that's just
So conservation doesn't mean necessarily it's conservative.
understood, but to the extent that someone's now having a new designation put on their property that says, blah, 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 what I just read,
Is it here?
if it's discretionary, I would
This is
imagine
my property right here,
Okay.
that yellow
But-
is a
but
better
this-
designator.
but these are all private properties, all down here, and this is all private property.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, a lot of this is all private property.
Yeah.
That's
So I
true.
get it that that's not the implication, but where you have like these two properties, those are blue, and you go up the road a little bit, and then those are green. Sorry that I'm pointing at a map that you can't see, but if you're looking at online, we're looking up by.
Yeah, I'm looking at it online, and can I just, for clarification, just so we're all on the same page, something new on this latest map, there's a hashtag which is conserved land. That hasn't been outlined before, so before we go into the individual parcels, which I'm definitely on board with that discussion, but the conserved land, is that existing conserved land, or is that a new designation?
That's existing conserved land. So that's land that has already been conserved. There's nothing being mapped for the purpose of putting easements or anything like that. There's no implication of seizing land rights or anything like that. So that hashed line, shaded area, are areas that are already conserved, mostly through conservation easements with like the Upper Valley Land Trust, and with state land. A lot of this is state forest and wildlife management areas.
So like up at Caper Hill, I assume this is Springbrook Farms,
That's
and they
right.
have some kind of
They
conservation.
have a conservation easement up there, yes. So
Did-
that cannot be developed in the future.
Right now, Stacy, we're looking kind of at the areas contiguous with Stone Chimney Road. Did you have a question in particular about conserved land? Like a particular parcel or just in general?
No, I hadn't seen the conserved land outlined on the previous map, so I wanted to make sure both designations. And then it looks like there's conserved, and I'm sure it's a mapping issue, but there's conserved hashtag land coming off of Springbrook Farm, Spear Cemetery, that direction, which borders our property to the north. And it looks like the hashtag has come down onto our parcel, which none of our land is conserved land. So I just want to make sure that I understand the mapping and the designations.
Yes, I've noticed this. I think that this is an error with the conserved land data set.
It's a datum shift.
Yeah, it's a little bit off in some areas. But yes, it represents existing conserved land that's not being shifted across parcel lines. And obviously the final designator of where that conservation will be the plats that are recorded, not the planning maps.
So what about Whitmore here? On Whitmore, there's these lines that are conserved land, but it's on blue.
Yep, there's a couple of areas that that is the case. Here, this one I just missed, so I need to turn that to green. And this over on Whitmore Road, I made the choice not to map this entirely as green because I didn't want to split the big parcel here if I didn't have to. But I'm happy to map that as green.
Well, is that conserved land or
It
no?
is, it's conserved land.
So if it's conserved land, is it supposed to be mapped as green?
Generally, yes. There's a little bit of leeway in the way the law is written as to whether or not you map conserved land as blue or green, in this case agricultural or conserved. In general, the state would prefer that it is mapped as conservation because it is being conserved. But if it makes more sense in other designations, then that gets designated the other way. A good example of this is in Weathersfield, for instance. There's a good number of conservation easements in the Weathersfield Bow, which is all agricultural easements. So that's being mapped as agricultural.
Just wanted to point out, not that you can see this, but this is our 2022 future land use map. And so that's the brown is the working lands, kind of analogous to this blue.
Yeah.
And then the green is the old conservation.
Yeah.
So, looking in this.
This is a 2022 map?
This is the 2022
So
map.
if you have the 2022 map, we're looking at the 2022 map compared to the current proposal.
And, just kind of talking through some of this, some of this was working lands before. It looks a lot different, and the green was a lot more expansive. And so I want to make the point of, from a policy point of view, not a lot's changed there. And if, it wasn't a horrible thing 2 years ago, I don't think it's going to be a horrible thing 2 years in the future from now either. Like, I don't think policy-wise it's a huge difference.
But if it's conserved land, I think you already said that it makes it more difficult if you want to, if you wanted to build a garage on your property, you're on conserved land, you're going to have to jump through hoops.
It does not. There is no Act 20, there's no Act 250 implication for being mapped as green, blue, or yellow. Those are all the same. It is the character of the land.
Okay.
And if we would like to change this, like I agree, we can totally map this as blue. If people want that to be blue, we can make that blue. Not a problem.
So I'm just going by and I'm sorry, I'm not trying to be argumentative. I just want to make sure I understand this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going by your descriptions.
Yep.
And if there's no difference in how they're treated, then there should be no difference in the descriptions. So where it says on conservation, development is allowed but must minimize impacts and maintain functionality of identified natural resources.
Right.
That to me sounds different
Yeah.
than that other one, which doesn't say that, although the other one is supposed to contribute to everyone's economic well-being and quality of life. So I'm a little bit literal, and I just want to make sure that
Yep.
it makes sense to me and it's not just hyperbole.
Yeah, I would say that in terms of this description, which you've noted is a draft, it's still marked up. I think that the conservation description needs to be revised because Act 181 does not imply that development is more restricted on conservation, rural conservation lands than it is on any other rural land. So I think you're right to point out that is alarming, and we should revise that.
I feel alarmed.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's not showing changes.
Yeah, me too.
And it is a little different.
I know you are.
Super fair.
What I was trying to say is our old working lands description should be the same as what the rural agriculture forestry description is. It doesn't look like it is. So we have to revisit that. We want to make sure that, my intention was to not change the policy.
Is
From
working
yesterday
lands a
versus
state
today.
definition? And
That's what
are
we
these
used to
state
use.
definitions?
That's what we used to use because we liked the language better. And we liked how we mapped it before better, to be honest with you. But that's we're now calling it rural agriculture and forestry.
Yes, the new definitions are state defined. I don't know if working lands was a state defined.
No, it was not. That was
originally.
our invention a few years ago.
So here's my concern. Let me just lay it out there. I think sometimes there are a lot of really well-intentioned ideas that have unintended outcomes. My most recent one was a brand new oil tank that I put in before they changed the rules 2 years ago, which is now out of compliance and is going to cost me thousands of dollars to fix because it sounded good to update those rules. I want to make sure that we are not unintendedly making it harder for anybody to do anything. I mean, the status quo is what it is. State law is what it is. But I guess I want to be really careful in our descriptions and our designations that we're not burdening somebody with more than they used to have and they didn't know it.
I hear it.
Does that make sense?
I hear that.
Absolutely.
Yep. Yeah, and I think you caught something that I didn't realize. So yeah, well.
And I think that mirrors race.
Go ahead, Stacy.
Mirrors race concern too, with the individual, there's a little bit of delay, I think, in the sound, but I think that mirrors race concerns about one property being green, one property being blue. And then also, you zero in on like Hammondsville, for example, you have a chunk of properties that are yellow, and then you have, Lisa, sorry, you're gonna be my guinea pig here, throwing you under the bus. Your property's yellow. Right next door is our property, which is blue. So I'm not understanding how you're saying the general character of the neighborhood, you're trying to follow that, but yet it doesn't seem like that on the map.
I would say in that particular example, that has to do with parcel size. The larger yellow one to the north, I believe you said that was Lisa's parcel, is adjacent to other rural agricultural areas, not rural agricultural, rural general areas, excuse me. And so it was retained that way. If we would prefer it to be rural agricultural, again, I don't think it.
Speak up now, Lisa.
Yeah, speak up now. I'm happy to make that change. Yeah. Or email me later. It's also fine.
Or like on this property here, and I don't, do we have a 2020? Sorry, the old map.
Did you have that? Let me see. Is that in here?
I think these are the listers maps.
Are those the listers maps? Might just be ready to get it.
Application ready?
I'm not.
I don't think.
No, I'm from West Virginia originally.
Oh, well,
Yeah.
because it's not a real common name. I was surprised to hear.
I didn't know there were Appletons in Reading. That's really
Yeah,
interesting.
which,
They live up here.
we're on Kitcher's Pasture Road.
Oh, fascinating.
Yep.
Yeah, that's interesting. Have they been here a long time?
Oh, yeah, long time. They're off the grid,
Nice.
family. Yep.
Yeah.
So like this parcel. Why is this yellow?
I believe that would have to do with parcel size. And it's a little bit subjective. There's going to be some weird things. It's connected to these small parcels here. It itself is less than 20 acres, I believe, or it should be. But it is weird because it sticks out into this, it's a little bit of a flag into this agricultural area. The state has also asked that we try not to split parcels if we can, so.
Not the best image, but there you go.
Can I touch
It's a
your
little bit
computer?
subjective.
Please do.
Yeah.
All right, so I'm looking at the old map. Is this, what year was this?
This is the 2022 future land use map that Eve is looking at.
All right, so this is 2022. There's Hammondsville. That's Hammondsville, right?
Yes.
So,
This is the more fluid map, it's more like bubbles
Correct.
Yeah,
instead of,
that's right. Yep.
well, it's kind of hard to tell. Is that blue? Are those streams?
Yeah, it's sort of like a stream buffer thing going on there.
Not a very clear map, is it?
No, it's at that scale. Not very good. No.
So, the yellow on that map represented working lands?
The brownish colors, working lands. This is rural residential, or I think is what we called it.
It's the equivalent of rural general in this case, the yellow.
So obviously it's different. It's a lot more.
So that was not at all parcel-based?
Not at all. And if it was up to me, I wouldn't do parcel-based either for this, but that's sort of what we were. The guidelines is, we're following the mapping guidelines, and we're trying to make sure it works as best as it can work for everybody.
So I'm kind of an economic development person.
Sure.
I will not speak for the world, but me personally, if there's a choice that is sort of, we could do this, we could do this, I'm more in favor of less restrictive. So if there's an option to do one or the other, like up here on Stone Chimney, that these are green, that could have implications for these people. So I'm not sure what to say more than that. We can hear you, Jane.
It's not me.
We can hear Jace.
Yes.
So, the major difference between blue and green from a policy, I think, point of view, and we gotta adjust this language as appropriate, but what it says later on is, here we're trying to minimize impacts on the forestry or the agricultural resources that are there. In the green, we're generally trying to minimize impacts to the wildlife habitat and those sorts of more natural resources.
Acknowledging that.
It's very similar, other than that. It's very similar. You can still build, you can still do things, but it's really more a matter of which resource are you protecting or minimizing impacts on.
That's really hard for me to follow, Jason.
It comes back to why are we mapping
So
farms and
It is
forests?
true then that, I'm sorry, excuse me, it is true that it's designated green, there will be more hurdles to overcome if you wish to develop that land further than what it is currently.
I don't believe there's any more hurdles in the green than there are in the blue. And I don't think the hurdles are that much. But the blue is mapped for farming and for forestry. So if there's development in the blue, they're going to want to look at how to minimize impacts on those things. In the green, there could be development that happens in the green too. If that happens, it's looking at what are the impacts on, wildlife habitat and other environmental factors. I think that's the distinction.
Okay, so that you got to look at these descriptions. Hold on. Rural conservation, that's the green, right?
Yes.
Blah, 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 wetlands, blah, 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 wildlife. The land use classification includes lands protected from development through public ownership. That's that.
Yep.
Conservation easements.
Yep.
That's that.
Yep.
As well as large blocks of forest land that are largely undeveloped. There might be high elevation, steep slopes, shallow soils. Then it says on the next page, conservation lands are an essential element of the landscape and are part of the rural countryside this plan seeks to preserve. They provide ecological services, wildlife habitat, flood reduction, soil retention, that make them a valuable resource for the region. The most suitable use of conservation lands are wildlife habitat and nature preserves, hunting and fishing, outdoor recreation, seasonal camps, environmental education, carbon sequestration, flood attenuation, and groundwater recharge, and similar low-intensity uses that leave the land primarily undeveloped and in a natural state. Conservation lands are generally not appropriate for residential development or extension of infrastructure, including but not limited to roads and utilities that would facilitate further development. So when I read that and I think, those green people are going to be in areas that are being said are not intended to be for residences or an addition to your residence. So if I'm this guy or this guy or gal, I want to be blue. I don't know these
Right.
people.
I hear what you're saying. We'll revisit it. I guess I do want to make the point that the green is a lot more extensive on this than that.
I don't know what the
And-
all green definition was though.
Same. And so my point is, if it wasn't a problem 2 years ago, I don't think it's going to be a problem in 2 years. 'Cause
I don't know.
that policy language has not really changed.
But that it wasn't a problem 2 years ago doesn't mean that we're not trying to get Vermont out of the hole that it's found itself in.
I hear you, and we'll look at it. But it's not a,
And if I had a green parcel, I would be very concerned about all of this.
but if anything, we're shrinking our green effectively from the 2022 map to this map. The green is shrinking.
Who are the primary, part of this is who are the primary users of the map? My interpretation is that, let's let's do a real world example. Let's say one of these green parcels has an application to put a 30-acre solar field in. Would it be any different applying for that 30-acre field on a green versus a blue? Was question one. And two, the decision made as to whether that goes in or not would come back to like a zoning board, and they would just reference the map and say, is this an area that we previously set aside as,
I think it would go to
and
Act 250.
what value it has?
It would be an Act 250
So,
review, not the zoning.
for solar, it would be the Public Utilities Commission. And they would look at both the town plan and the regional plan. And that may make a difference, but honestly, probably it wouldn't. They're probably just gonna go through their normal A&R, natural resource review process, and that's gonna be probably more determinative of what can happen than our maps, but they will look at them. And I don't know that that's gonna have any impact. We've had solar projects in all of the different categories, and really, that has not made a major impact on that type of a project.
But if someone wanted to put 30 units.
It could
of
happen.
housing, Yeah.
30 units of housing would definitely trigger Act 250 review. And if it was in the green, it could be an issue. If it's in the blue, it potentially could be an issue too.
Would it be a different issue?
I don't believe it would. I think in the blue, they're gonna look at a different set of resources and its impact on those resources versus the green. But in general, that would be a very big project for a very rural part of town, generally speaking. And so they're probably gonna scrutinize it.
So what's next on the map? What's the next step? And when is the final, we're done talking about this with you?
Tonight?
No, because there are
I'm
changes to
joking.
be made,
I'm
including the
joking.
village center, which is
I'm
not
joking.
correct.
No, yeah, I'm joking. But we are trying to get this to the land use board in February. So in February, they're doing or maybe soon thereafter, they're doing a preliminary review. They're gonna give us feedback on whether it works for them. And then, we probably will have to make changes based on their comments. We are gonna try to quickly do our adoption process after we make our changes. And we're hoping that the state's final review would be somewhere in August, September timeframe. So we're trying to get it done, but I hear you, and we want to make sure that we get this as right as we can get it. So we're gonna go back, take another look at some things, definitely take a look at the language.
I think where stuff is conservation land that clearly is green, where stuff is not in conservation, and yet it's being designated as conservation, I think just from a public policy perspective, there has to be a really articulable, evidence-based rationale that supports that.
And maybe, again, we need to revisit our language, maybe it's not quite right, so.
And anything that is restricting people's ability to do something that fits within the zoning code would be hard for people. That would be a loss. That would be like a taking. That would be a loss for them.
This is not intended to be regional zoning or anything like that. You know, this really applies to Act 250, generally speaking, projects.
I just got to push back. That's my job.
I hear that. So we'll look at it. You know, we'll take another look at some of this and try to make some refinements.
Yeah, and I'm happy to take a look at the specifics of why each parcel is green. One thing that I've forgotten until this point, I was just looking through the methodology on my phone a second ago, is that the methodology also suggests that A&R designated habitat blocks be mapped as green, which are not represented on this map. I can't speak to specifically whether or not that is one or not.
Does that mean like significant wild
It is.
habitat overlay, whatever that's called?
Yeah, it's a priority and highest priority habitat areas.
If you have the capability of doing those overlays, that would be really helpful for us.
I'm happy to pass that along. I think
Because we have kind of a hodgepodge of maps, but if you have what I think of in my mind as the swahad, because I can't say all those words, if you can overlay that on, you know, wherever it goes, that is useful information for us.
Yeah, and now I have all y'all's emails, so I can send that map along.
This will go right through here.
You could also, you should also copy it to, it's good to send it to us personally, but you can also copy it to PC, what is it, Cheyenne?
It is
PC
PC@readingvt.net.
Perfect.
PC@readingbt.net, because then the planning commission, whether or not we're on it or not, has a record of it in the planning commission
Yeah,
mailbox.
that's perfect. I can do that, and then I'll highlight a couple of, like the relevant areas in the methodology. And I can send a full methodology document as well, but, which is directly from the state. But yeah, I'm happy to provide more information.
So will you send us a new map?
As soon as we remap them, yeah, for sure.
I have a quick question, because I do agree with you, I think just the word conservation and conserved land being so similar is causing a confusion.
It is
But
confusing.
you're saying that that terminology and definitions are coming directly from the state?
Correct.
So there is no way to clarify those?
Unfortunately, no. This is something we've run into in a couple of other towns as well.
Clarify is one thing, maybe we can clarify, the descriptions, but the names of the categories, we're stuck with it. It's in state law. And we're also stuck with the,
parentheses, like conservation have the SWA,
Swahad.
I want to say SWA, but it's wrong.
That's different.
Could it just have some kind of an asterisk maybe next to it for clarification purposes? Since you don't have the ability to change the actual terminology?
I can see if I can put a
Conservation,
description on
not
that as well.
necessarily conserved.
Yeah, it's
Yeah. Yeah.
Subject to a conservation easement.
poor wording.
I hear that, and I will do my best to see if I can put a description or some other way on the map. The methodology is relatively strict, even down to these colors are defined by the state. But yes, I definitely hear that. Let me see what I
Going back to
can
someone at the actual land review for the state, and be like, we just changed this word.
do. What if things were different? Yeah, totally.
Okay, Stacy, I think had a comment.
Yeah, so just so I'm clear about this, the labeling is required by the state as is, but the description of the label is not defined by the state?
so in state law, they lay out these land use categories that we're supposed to use. So we got to follow those. And they describe them up to an extent. And then there's some mapping guidelines that we're supposed to follow. There's some ability to, make some modifications and some tweaks, and that's where we're trying to talk with you about that. We don't have a great liberty to change stuff significantly. We can't be contrary to state law, so just be aware of that. We're trying to meet your goals and their goals as much as we can, meeting in the middle somewhere, but we have some pretty strict state requirements that we have to follow.
Okay, so they just to confirm that, they made you, or made us, they're making us use these categories, but they're not creating a definition for those categories. You're creating that definition for the categories, working with the town and the residents.
There are state definitions. We've expanded upon them in our plan, but, so I don't know if I hope I'm answering your question. State law really defines these things for us. We're trying to take it a little bit further and tweak it as much as we can to meet our goals and our needs, your needs. Hopefully we can do this in a way that meets what works for Reading as well as what works for state law.
Okay, so I don't mean to hammer this dead horse. That's a bad mixed metaphor. Copilot, Microsoft AI, says rural agricultural and forestry are recognized as working lands. Act 181 encourages compact settlement patterns, keeping growth in designated centers, maintaining rural character. Conservation land, development is discouraged or subject to stricter Act 250 review. Maybe they're wrong, but I feel like that's coming from not nowhere.
At
So,
one point in
I think we need more
time,
clarification.
there was an assumption that isn't based in fact that Tier 3 would be analogous with the rural conservation. I don't think that's going to be the case.
So if there is any chance that Tier 3 comes in and scoops up all the green, then that would be highly concerning.
At this point,
Unless it's already conserved.
at this point, that's not at all what they are proposing, but that could change.
Okay. I'm just gonna say, unless you guys disagree, that anything that is green that is not conserved, that is discretionary, unless there is a mandatory requirement that it be green for a reason, such as sheer cliff or
Sure.
elevation, I think that probably is better suited as a blue. Do you disagree?
I agree. I do not disagree, I agree.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing from you all is that you all are recommending that we minimize the amount of green to the point
Greatest extent
available by
possible.
law. Yeah, by law.
By law, like if it's essential, if it's required by law, then it's required by law. If it's not required by law, then it shouldn't be green, unless it's in the conservation easement. And some of these lines aren't matching, so I assume that's just a mapping
That's a
issue.
mapping error, for sure.
Can I ask a quick question? Jason, you were trying to say that there's less green on this new map than there was before, correct?
That's right.
Okay, and are there multiple properties that were blue that have been redesignated as green? Because I finally have the map, so I'm looking at it myself now. So I'm looking at our neighborhood, the Stone Chimney area, the hatch mark, and I'm not gonna make you go over this whole thing again. The hatch mark ones are already conserved. Anything else that's green but not hatch marked, is considered conservation land but not conserved, correct?
Yes.
So this is my point, Lisa. Like, if it's not conserved, there better be a requirement that it's conservation land in this map, or it shouldn't be green.
Yes. I don't disagree with you. I guess I was just wondering when Jason is saying that there are less there.
I mean, you know, again, we have these new mapping guidelines that we're working with. What we did in 2022 was a little different, right? But yeah, green is shrunken on this draft versus what it was in 22. But we were looking at things a little bit different.
It seems a little apples and oranges though,
A
right?
little bit. But my point is, if the policy language, which really shouldn't have changed, wasn't a problem, we're shrinking, you know, the area that impacts. That may not make you
Okay.
feel better, but that's, I think, the case.
I understand your argument, but it's that we don't know what's gonna happen 2 years from now.
And I don't know that it has been working for us. I think that
Yeah, that's true. That's
there's a
true.
hope that actually some things can turn around and get better in terms of housing, in terms of development opportunities, in terms of people's ability to make a living and stay in Vermont and pay their taxes and not have to replace their brand new oil tanks. Just saying.
Well, we want the same
I think
things.
the other thing that would be helpful is getting that A&R map overlaid with that.
For sure.
If they work in tandem, that would be very helpful. If there's some of the designation that clears the question of these isolated parcels on this proposed map, that would be very helpful to clear those questions up.
Great.
That's the wildlife overlay area, that one?
Correct.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
There are many wildlife areas that are designated by A&R in our neighborhood that I'm aware of. So it kind of goes along that ridge. So that might be something that would be more, just a benefit to be able to see that.
Well, and it has, as you know, it has a significant impact on zoning if you wanted to build a house or subdivide your property. It makes a huge difference. And if you are lucky or unlucky enough to have one of those on your property, it changes what you can do with it.
Absolutely.
It's a little hard to see on the map, but also you can see where it coincides that there's a significant wetlands designation, that some of those areas are dark green, but not necessarily in conservation, so that's another thing that is easy to see why it would be kicked into the dark green category versus the blue. You see what I'm talking about?
Are you talking about like off of Grasshopper?
Yeah.
There.
Yeah, there's a couple of these places where that's what, like up here, that there's enough significant wetland that that's what's causing those to be moved into that category, so.
I think it's stuff like this.
Well, yeah,
This,
oh, yeah.
this,
Yes, for sure.
this, that. All that.
But hopefully an overlay would help clarify.
Yeah, I can make that happen and I'll send it over.
Just, not to be picky, but I
No,
don't know
that's
where
why
this,
we're here,
I don't know where this map goes, but there are no names on any of these roads up here except Mountain View Drive. That's the name of my neighbor's driveway.
Yeah, that is interesting. That's data that comes directly from V-Trans, and so,
Is that a private road?
Yeah, it's Bob Glassman's driveway.
huh, that's fascinating.
Yeah, it's interesting,
Got a
huh?
name.
Huh? Yeah, Stone Chimney Road. Yeah. and so-
If you look at the Whitmore Circle, where the beaver pond is, it's wood.
Where is it?
Ah,
Right, but yeah, across
This is-
Yeah.
six,
Right.
part of my property is wetlands.
Yeah.
So the state's definition of significant wetland for the purpose of this mapping is a class 1 or class 2 wetland that is greater than 5 acres. And so I don't know for that specific beaver pond specifically, it may be that it's less than 5 acres, it may be that it has not been mapped as class 1 or 2.
it's definitely bigger than this.
Great.
I don't even know who owns that. Is that state land?
Where?
The beaver pond on Whitmore?
Whitmore Circle.
No,
No,
that's owned by the Dunnings,
that's part of
the Dunning property.
Downing's property, yeah. Downing's on all the way across 106.
Okay,
Yep.
great.
Right, and then you jump across, it's to the south of there, you jump across 106, and then this wetland and the green conservation land pick up on bordering the Harley property, jumping onto my property, and then moving on to the south to the Windsor Mineral property.
Sorry, where is that?
Right off of 106 north of Hammonsville.
Oh, it's right here. Yeah, great. That area of significant wetland that's being mapped to the east of 106?
Wait, I'm still fixated on this Whitmore Circle. That is all wet and could probably never be developed.
Sure. I believe that the data that these wetlands are coming from is the state's mapped significant wetlands. That is a planning purpose data set. If someone were actually going to develop, they would have to have that wetland designated or delineated.
Where would that data have been compiled? Because I think that beaver pond on Whitmore is.
I don't know off the top of my head. I would say within the last 5 years, but I'm not sure.
Why are these yellow?
It's a great question.
Okay.
They can get
Yeah,
changed.
sure.
I mean-
That's a
But I think, yeah, some of this is, like, why are these green? Like, there are some,
Why is this green?
Because all of this is green, south of here in Cavendish.
yeah.
Yeah, but these little tiny, they're so small.
Right, and they have no road access. So they are part of a larger
Okay.
swath of green that continues down to the south. I saw that earlier. I was like, why are those green? That's why.
Okay. All right, I think we've probably taken this as far as we can take it tonight. Any other questions?
One last comment, in our previous conversations with you, Jason, in the last meeting or two, in the village center in
Yep.
Belchville, the rectangular in the previous map included what would, I guess you would consider the greenhouse property, the Harkins property. And in this one, it's still leaving it out. You thought that was a mapping error, but it's still leaving, it's redesignating that.
It's still there, but we'll look at that. We'll make sure that it's included.
That one's on me. I've actually already updated it on my laptop earlier.
So that is included, yeah.
That's included. Yeah, I double checked the state's
Okay.
designation. That's all good.
So we're going to consider that a Scrivener's error, and it's corrected, and
Yep.
it's
Yep.
going to be back where it was.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yep.
I think that's important.
Yep. Yeah, it is.
For sure.
Yep.
Okay. Great. Thank you both so much. Appreciate your
Yeah.
That's all good.
your back and
And
forth with us.
we'll be in touch about talking with the state about the 2 other potential.
And I think you're
Those
gonna
centers.
need feedback before our next meeting. So
Ideally, yes.
we're all prohibited from speaking offline with each other. But
You're
I
welcome to just fire emails at us.
I think we should all look at these maps, and if we have questions, we should be sending them to Jason. Right?
You're welcome.
Okay.
You're welcome to do that.
And feel
Yes,
free
thank you.
to
Thank you
CC
all
me
for-
as well.
Bring up with us.
Yeah, me or Kellen, whatever. Send us both emails. It's all good.
Any information you can give us that kind of walks through what that analysis would be, and any differences between these categories would be welcome. Because all I can do is, you know.
Yeah, I hate to throw
ask
too much
for-
information at you, but you asked for it.
Yeah.
I'm-
When I resend this map, I will also send a PDF of the methodology as prescribed by the state. It's a lot of detail, but that sounds like what you want, so.
Yeah, no, we do.
Yeah, for
And
sure.
I just, you know, with the descriptions, I just want to make sure, we were really careful with our zoning revision this year to not have any unintended consequences. You know this, poor Martha.
Yep.
So we're just trying to make sure that whatever we're saying is what is intended, and we're not curtailing something that could be really beneficial down the road, and oops, now we can't do it.
No, I agree, and that's good.
So Eva, I just want to clarify for our vast viewing audience.
Our viewing
Last-
audience,
Well, last month, we said that we would try to have these maps available for people to come in and view. But I think at this point, because they're still in flux, we can say that that's not going to be available to the public for us to post these up on the wall for people to come look at. At this point, I don't know that it would be productive to have people coming and looking at these and being concerned when they're still.
well, this map is now totally outdated.
Right.
Is there any point in posting this newer map and saying, check out your parcel and see what you think? Or is it just going to change again?
We're gonna be making some tweaks.
But I don't,
We can post it.
Can we get another big one to put up? Like, when you make these changes, can we then post it up and say, you have a couple weeks to take a look at this and
sure.
check out what your property is in?
Yeah, I can run over a copy, for sure. Yeah.
That would be awesome.
Yeah.
My only concern with that is just, we're talking through all of these things that are confusing and not clear, so if it's just a thing hanging on the wall, and people are really unclear what it means, and oh my god, you know, like.
Maybe they'll get all
it could
fired up,
create a-
get engaged.
Should be more
It could
confusing.
create all kinds of angst, so
That's okay.
I'd be a little bit afraid of that, but we can certainly do that.
Or just come to the next meeting if you really want to take a look at your parcel.
That's what I did for this meeting. Here they are. I think if we could get us a new big map and we could put it up on the wall and say, this is the proposed draft for the Regional Planning Commission. If you're interested in seeing what the town's, you know, future land use mapping looks like, any comments, send it to pc@readingbt.net.
Sounds great to me. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, I can get that.
And one last quick question. Were there any revelations at Martha's meeting regarding scoop on poop?
Scoop on poop.
I have not heard from Martha yet.
I was in and out of that meeting because for other things, so there's a scoop on poop meeting, which was all about wastewater. And so I think she learned some good things about some newer technologies, but I'm not able to really report out on that. So I'd say wait for Martha to let you know what she learned there.
Okay.
Okay,
It
great.
was very interesting, I attended it. They were talking about alternative systems, and I did reach out to the person that was presenting and have asked her if she would attend one of the wastewater committee meetings to discuss the content. And so after Jagoy King comes to this month's wastewater committee meeting and has a chat with us, I'm hopeful that we can get her to come to the next one.
Great. Thank
How
you.
is that for a synopsis?
Thank you both so much. If you do update this at all, I would love to take a look. I would say we would all love to take a look.
Yeah.
If you could send it to us.
We'll review that and make some changes and we can circulate that.
Yeah, and anything you send us, it would be awesome if you could send it to the PC mailbox as well, just so it's in the
Okay.
records.
Okay,
Otherwise,
sounds
it
good.
floats around in a box somewhere and then disappears.
Sounds good.
Awesome.
Does the town plan have a land use map, or is this it for the local land use plan?
The town plan does have a future land use map, and it does look a little different.
I have to imagine it's outdated now.
How often is that reviewed?
It is required to be updated in 2030.
Every 8 years, usually.
But it does the same thing, you know, as far as its goals and objectives and.
Does a similar thing, the town plan, state law is less directive, I guess, than it is for the regional plan at this point in time. But yeah, it does a very similar thing. We just are very explicit in what we have to talk about and include.
Yeah, that zoning map is where you'll see a lot of those corridors, the wildlife corridor, the deer wintering areas, you'll see those overlays. And that's, you can pull that right up on the readingvermont.com, or readingvermont.govoffice.com. You just pull it right up on there and you can look at that.
Is the planning commission's goal to make those similar? I mean, is there any angst in that the maps don't align with each other?
Well, it's not due yet, so I'm feeling no angst at all. But when the time comes, I'm sure we will be feeling a little angst. I think this is still so not yet defined that I think we're waiting for that to get settled, including the tier 3, before we consider updating the plan.
But tier 3 is not going to likely happen, from what it sounded like, what we were told tonight.
I think
it is
it's
gonna
happening.
happen. It's just, I'm not sure when. It's supposed to be within the next year, but not by the time we finish this.
Well, by the time 2030 rolls around, would the town be required to then bring their plan into compliance with whatever that state plan was?
I'm sure we would.
Yeah.
Whatever's required is required.
I think they could be independent from each other, right? There's no requirement they be the same, but
There's a little bit of, it
it
depends.
doesn't make a lot of sense, but like.
Ideally, the town plan and the regional plan are similar.
Ideally.
If the town wants to do something differently, they can do that. And the town currently uses different language in different categories, and that's okay. They just kind of look at the sort of the overall intent and whether they're in terms of consistency. And I think that will continue that way, but the more consistent in some ways, the better. But again, the town's going to want to make sure that their plan works for the town. And they may or may not like these categories and things, so, we'll see how that unfolds when we update that next.
I think we're waiting for the state to sort itself out first and for Mark to make its recommendations. Once all the dust settles on that and our deadline becomes a little closer, then we'll start looking at that for the town as well. Okay, great. Thank you both a lot. Appreciate the chance to talk. We'll be looking forward to the new plan. Okay, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Anything that we want to talk about the town highway ordinance? Anything new on class 4s?
Yeah, I was unable to make last month's meeting, but reading in the Informer, it says here that a class 4 road, the town is responsible for making sure it is passable. That's definitely not true.
Is that in the minutes?
Yeah.
That's what Bob Allen said.
So, yeah, I agree with you. I think probably what it should have said is that the zoning administrator said, or the selectman said that, because that's a little bit different than the highway ordinance.
Yeah, and also the VLCT has a model for what they would like the towns to do.
I've read it.
Okay, and, again, we've got the situation of class 4 road that's simply a trail versus one that people live on.
Yeah. Yep. Can we revisit those minutes? So I think that that's a good point. I think it does, you're pointing out that it says what it is. I think he did say that, but I think that that's not what the highway ordinance says.
No, the thing I can't find, I had to update my computer, and I cannot find, I distinctly remember reading that the town of Reading on the class 4 road ordinance says that the town is responsible for bridges and culverts if there's a house or a camp on that road. And that's all. They're not responsible to grade it, plow it, anything else. And that was written down somewhere years ago, but I can't find out.
Well, there is a town highway ordinance. If it's not in there, I don't know where else it would be. But there's definitely a Reading town highway ordinance.
And I do remember, right, seeing that same language, and I think in this, what happened at 8:06 PM in our last meeting, now that I'm reading it to your highlight, it's conflating a lot of the conversation, which I think should be clarified.
Yeah.
All right. Procedurally, I'm not 100% sure on amending the minutes, but I would move right now to amend the minutes that we voted on earlier to make that clarification.
I second.
So while I'm looking for something on my computer, Stacy, can you suggest something for Shanann to make that change?
Well, I would definitely delete a class 4 road, the town is responsible for making sure it's passable. We'd have to look at the recording to see what was actually said, and I don't remember that being said. But I do remember a conversation about the culverts and the bridges on class 4 roads being the town's responsibility if it created a hazard to another parcel, or I'm paraphrasing here, so not exact quotes, but can we bench this and look at the recording and get this correct?
But here's what I think. I don't think we have to describe what the recording said. I mean, in minutes, you actually don't have to describe anything besides things that got voted on. If it was said in the meeting but is not accurate for the town highway ordinance, I would just strike it.
Strike it.
Okay.
So I would move to strike that language.
Okay.
And
It is prefaced in all of those discussions that there are comments made by, the gallery. So understanding that these were comments coming from our selectmen, I misrepresented what he was saying, then that is an error. But yeah, if that's causing confusion, then.
or maybe someone misspoke as well. So
yeah, if it's gonna cause confusion, we'll just strike it.
I think where it sounds like it's an affirmative obligation that's not consistent with the policy,
Okay.
the ordinance.
Yep. So I'll just strike that
Okay.
clause in that end of the sentence.
All in favor of making that amendment to
So we're
strike that?
So just for clarity, we're striking from where A class all the way to Bob will get the PC map.
I'm not looking at it, is that right?
Yeah, that's right.
Well, I had just struck from, for a trail designation road, the town is not required, because it says that the road designation is the purview of the state, and then for class 4 road, the town is responsible to make sure they're passable, so that was the part that I would strike.
So I would recommend striking that, what is that, 1,
Just-
2, 3 sentences?
Starting with for a trail designated?
Or the comment. I think it's a comment.
A comment would be, yeah.
And then
I would start with
okay.
a comment and
Go down to where Bob said he'll give us back.
Bob said he'll give us an
Okay.
I think when we're talking about something that's the ordinance, if people want to know what the ordinance says, they have to go to the ordinance, and summarizing it can be misleading. Thank you for pointing that out.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you for being our watchdog. Always
Thank you,
appreciate it.
Ray.
So I'm looking at the highway ordinance. Am I seeing anything on culverts? Some of that may be a little urban
And the
legend.
town has been living up to that. I mean, twice since I've lived here, culverts got washed out on Kittredge Pasture Road, on the class 4 section going up to Appleton's, and the town went in and did it. But they've asked them a couple of times if they'd help them with at least supplying the gravel to regrade it, and the town said, no, we're not doing that. So
Okay, so I did find it. Here's the language. Section 2, the town shall not provide any maintenance or upkeep on designated trails. And according to Bob, we only have one of those, I think. The town shall not provide any summer maintenance of Class 4 highways except as required by necessity and public good, such as bridges, culverts, and removal of obstructions, etc. The town shall not provide any winter maintenance on Class 4 highways and trails, period. So in the summer, they do nothing except necessity and public good, bridges, culverts, obstructions. Winter, zero. Plowing by private parties is with the permission of the selectmen. So the bridges and the culverts are in there. Phew, thank you. Anything else on Class 4 roads for tonight? All right, let's pick that up next time. Budget is our next item. I think the only thing that has come up is the Okemo Valley TV allocation. That was in our budget for this year. I believe that because it was budgeted, that has been requested and should be paid out by the town clerk. The town had indicated to me that it should not be in the PC's budget, that it should be in the town's budget. And so that's what we did, was take it out of our budget. We have since heard from Okemo Valley TV, I don't know if you have any thoughts on this, Will, that they would like it to be in both. That the $850 that was voted at the town voting day was different than the kind of contribution of the $500 from the Planning Commission.
The only, if I may, the only information that I have on that is, I was told that we need to get a certain number of signatures in order to maintain that funding, and the only thing I have here is that $850 figure. I don't have anything about the additional amount of money.
Okay.
So, to my understanding, I think all we're asking for is the $850.
Okay, so we don't need to have this in our budget?
To my understanding, no.
Okay. To the extent that I think the town is paying for services for its various town commissions, I would personally rather see that coming out of the town's budget, because then they have a sense of what it is and it's all aggregated as opposed to a pot here and a pot there and a pot there. I could defer a little bit to our select board member on that call. Or we could just make a decision, Planning Commission. I'm comfortable with it not being in our budget.
I'm comfortable with not being in our budget as well. I do, for transparency purposes, I do think we should highlight that there were email exchanges with Patrick. Patrick, are you behind the camera tonight?
No, it's Will.
Oh, well, okay. But we should be a little transparent about that email with Patrick about the 850 and the 500, because I think they were, I took from the email that they were kind of expecting both.
It wasn't clear.
Not expecting, and expecting is probably the wrong word.
It wasn't clear to me.
They were anticipating both.
I think they're getting paid for this year because it was already budgeted. And to the extent that that was a donation in prior years, I don't know that the Planning Commission is in the position of doing a voluntary donation in their budget. I think that probably is more appropriate for the town vote. But I could be persuaded otherwise.
You're muted, Jane.
Yeah, I just want to say that I was at that meeting with Kathy that we did determine to get, to budget money for Okemo Valley TV. However, this is a problem now. I went back today to try to find the minutes and they're not included in all. I submitted them when I was secretary to Callista, they're not on the website. So part of the issue is that she needs to put all those minutes on the website. Then I could have gone back and seen what was said at that meeting, which was November of 2023.
But at that point,
And then it would give us more clarity about what this whole issue is about.
yeah, at that point, the town though wasn't paying any money either, right? So the 500 was the only
Right.
amount of money.
And I was there, I was involved in that meeting, and I believe Okemo Valley was stepping up and making the commission's life a whole lot more efficient, and having those recordings versus the old school process of recording them, Google Driving them, saving them, paying storage fees, and trying to extract them and make them public was a bit of a chore, where Okemo Valley TV really streamlined that for us, making it very accessible to the public and us in the future.
Yes.
So I think that the $500 in the budget was an appreciation and sort of, giving them back for how efficient they made our lives.
Well, they're still making our life efficient.
Yeah, look at you guys. I'm not opposed to the town contributing for the services that are provided. That's not it at all. It's how it gets there and how it's accounted for.
Okay, so I guess that's up to our treasurer, how that's gonna be accounted for.
Well, if we wanted it to come into our budget, we would request it in our budget,
Right.
like yesterday, because I think they're meeting on Saturday, and they would consider it, and however that process works. Or we've just submitted our budget already without it in there. And if Okemo Valley TV wants to look for a contribution, they would go through the process, I believe, of the signatures that Will's talking about, and asking for it to be considered a town meeting.
Correct. What I have on my form here says that this petitions the select board to include the following funding request in the appropriations section general fund budget for the annual town meeting to be held on Tuesday, March 3rd, 2026. That's all the info I have to go off of, sadly. But,
So if they're asking for one pot of money to be voted on by the town, I feel like all the money should be voted on by the town. There shouldn't be a separate pot of money that's coming through the planning commission or the zoning board.
So they should be petitioning for what is it, $13.50 instead of.
Or whatever they want. I mean, whatever they need.
Right.
I mean,
I think what was happening in the past, you guys, is that there was no donation given to Okemo Valley TV.
Exactly.
So I'm not certain what the genesis was of the planning commission making that donation, but there were no previous funds being given to Okemo Valley TV. And then last year, Patrick ended up, requesting that and having it as a article. So my thought would be that one was replacing the other, but I do not know. So I haven't talked to Patrick about it. I just, I said that, in my opinion, I felt that it was worthwhile for them to try to get onto the town vote last year and request a budget donation from the town.
well, yeah.
So, that's the only back history I can give you on that, and I don't know, anything as far as one either replacing or being in addition to the other.
Thank you. Will, you have a comment?
Sure. Just to clarify any of the confusion there, I'm about, of course, I don't feel comfortable making a, 100% confirming anything without Patrick here, but I have not heard any discussion of that 500 number. I think that we're only requesting the 850. I don't think that it's intended to be for us to have both there at all.
So we've already submitted our budget. It does not include the 500 because that was the suggestion to us from the treasurer. And
Okay.
I thought from the town, but I know from the treasurer. If Okemo Valley TV has an amount that they would like to see, or that they feel that is appropriate, or that they need, I think that's the place where it should go, is in that petition.
Okay.
So if it's 850, then it's 850. If they need more than that, I think it should probably go in that petition.
Okay.
For the sake of transparency, so it's not coming from different pots that are
for sure.
voting on in different ways.
Does
that make sense?
I'm pretty sure that was our intent. We just kind of lost people along the way, I guess.
Okay.
But I'll report back to Patrick, and I'll have him reach out with.
If the number's different, then they can change the number.
Okay.
All right.
Excellent. Thank you.
Good? Okay. The other thing in the budget was there was like a $50 allocation for the Google fees. Stacy, I think that's what you eliminated this year. However, that bill is still coming through because I'm not sure how we discontinue that with Google. Is that a prior planning commission person who opened that?
No, that should have automatically, what bill's coming through?
So, Calista said she just got a hit on the, she said it's attached to the town's bank account. A fund, an account. And they just made a withdrawal out of that in November.
Wow, that's super confusing.
You got
because Steve was paying it with his credit card, the previous chair was paying it with his credit card, and there were numerous issues getting reimbursed. So he stopped it. We took over the Google account and erased all banking information. So how would they take a draft out of the town's checking account?
I do not know.
Unless it was for some.
They would have to be in touch with Calista to get that checking account, because
Yeah.
no one else has that information.
It could be somebody else's account that she thinks is ours.
So that maybe that's true. I don't want to be the translator on this particular topic. Would you be willing to talk to our town treasurer and try to sort this, Stacy?
Yeah, I can speak to Calista. Everything that I did when we took over that account from Steve, all the auto renewals were eliminated, all the banking, or it wasn't the banking, it was a credit card, all of that was eliminated, and they should not have renewed.
So maybe it's not even ours. She thinks it's ours, but maybe it's not.
I don't think it's ours.
Okay.
And as we all know, in our modern age, you get debits and checking accounts and bank accounts that it's like hieroglyphic. You can't figure out where they're coming from and what entity they're assigned to. It's like putting together a puzzle with a lot of these companies.
Yeah.
And these charters. So I will speak to Calista, but I don't think it's coming from our drive account.
Awesome. Let us know next month what she says. Anything else on the budget? It's already submitted. It's very Spartan. It's just less those two amounts, the $500 for the Okemo, which hopefully is shifting over to the town, and the $50, which hopefully is not ours. Other than that, I think it's good. Anything more to say on that? Okay. Annual support report submission. I drafted it based on what I could remember happened this year. Did you both get a chance to look at it? There does have to be, I think this is in the purview of the zoning chair, Madam Chairwoman. I think that there has to be a little bit of a description of the variance granted this summer. I left some blanks there for you to fill in.
Okay.
I don't know if it should just be the variance is granted, or if there should be a little more information there for background and rationale, but I'll leave that up to you.
Okay, I'll look at it.
Okay. Were there any other corrections on that? Did I forget anything? Did I misstate anything?
The only other thing I think maybe we should look at is the next paragraph after that. It ends, this is class roads to determine whether any ordinance updates should be considered. At first I read it and it struck me as odd, because we're really not, we're taking feedback from the community and we're giving suggestions. Maybe suggestions in there would be a better description of what we're doing versus ordinance updates to be considered. I don't know, just a thought, throwing it out there.
Yeah, I mean, sure, whatever.
Because we're really gathering information from the community and then putting that together in a nice little nut and sending it to the select board with their suggestions.
Should be,
based on our gathering.
yeah, should be suggested, should be proposed. Suggested is a little softer sounding maybe.
Yeah,
Should be suggested?
I think so.
Okay. Done.
Other than that, I think it looks good and I appreciate your effort.
Thank you. So Jane.
Yes, thank you.
I have one
Yeah.
thing I noticed on it, that at the end of the second to last paragraph, these determinations are determined by Mark, and I think that was intended to be designations.
Designations. Yep, thank you.
Yep.
Takes a village. Designate. So what happens when I write things at midnight. Great. So Jane, when you are comfortable with language for that zoning paragraph, do you want to shoot that to me? And then I will submit this to the town clerk by, I believe it's next week, December 8th, I think.
Okay.
And I'll copy our pc@readingvt.net mailbox, and I will copy both of you.
Okay.
And,
Thank you.
and Shanann. Great. So Jane, I'm gonna wait for your zoning thing, and that's gonna be the trigger that reminds me to send this in, so if you don't send it to me, I'm not gonna get this in.
Okay.
Um,
My head's not there, but. I'll
okay, get out of your sunny landscape.
try. Yeah.
Put a reminder in your phone.
All right, moving off that one, on to the next. Our next meeting, we've been doing these Wednesdays. Are we happy with Wednesday? I kind of like the
I'm very
Wednesday.
happy with Wednesdays.
It's fine. It's up to you, really.
Mondays are impossible for me now, so Wednesday is better for me.
Fine.
And it also has the added benefit of sometimes our zoning administrator can come, which is good. Are you good with it?
Yes.
You're a loyal member. You don't care. That said, I have a conflict on Wednesday, January 7th, which is supposed to be our next meeting. So, I think we need to do something different next month.
Fine with me. Can move it to the following Wednesday.
Yeah, I had a conflict then too. How about the 21st?
What about like the 8th or 9th, or does all?
So I am unavailable from the 6th to the 14th.
Okay.
Okay.
15th.
21st is fine.
It's good for me too.
That's just going to push our two meetings, our January, February, it'll push them, it'll be a tight window there.
Yep.
If we have any agenda items, I don't know. I don't really think we have much coming up.
No, it's not clear to me with Mark if this process is still happening in January. I mean, we could also cancel January. There's nothing.
So they had to submit it by February, I think, so I think they're trying to finalize that.
I feel like there might be more January happening.
Yeah, I mean, the 15th, 16th, I don't know, that's a Thursday, Friday of that week, if we wanted to have it earlier.
Yeah, Mark didn't give us a definite date on what his deadline was. He did say February though, but he didn't say when in February. Jason.
If the 21st works for you, can I check with Calista and see if this room is available on the 21st?
Yes.
Sure.
Are you okay on the 21st?
Yeah.
Can Okemo Valley TV come on the 21st
I think most likely, yeah.
for $850?
Yeah.
All right, I will check and see if the room is available, and then I think I'm going to have to get back to you on agenda matters offline.
Do you want to say tentatively that we will definitely continue for the first Wednesday?
Let's say we are attempting to schedule for the 21st, subject to town hall availability.
But moving forward, you had wanted to wait to state affirmatively that moving forward, our meetings will be the first Wednesday unless
Sure.
a conflict occurs.
Should we officially change it to the first Wednesday?
Yes.
Sure.
I move to officially change it to the first Wednesday instead of the first Monday.
I second it.
Any discussion?
All in favor?
All in favor? Okay, done. Thank you. Sorry, I just have to write down to call Calista. Okay. Any other business? Sorry, this was a big meeting. I didn't mean for it to go this long. Public comments? Adam? Ray? Feel free to come back and join us next month. Great. There being no further business, is there a motion to adjourn?
I motion to adjourn.
I second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, thanks you guys.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks.
See you later.